Tonight on America's Dumbest Criminals. Just because Santa can make it down chimneys, why do crooks believe they can do it too? This cabbie isn't driving Miss Daisy, but he'll definitely come out ahead. And maybe, just maybe, this guy should have called a cab instead of tempting fate. You're destined for a head-on collision with these and other frazzled folks right here on America's Dumbest Criminals.
Delta 1566, give me a call on your
Now, welcome your hosts for America's Dumbest Criminals, Daniel Butler and Debbie Allen.
All right, now tonight we present a study in contrast. Actually, much like you and me. Huh?
What are you doing?
See, look. Wait, step down there.
What are you doing?
Well, it's avant-garde TV. Come on, step down. See?
All right.
Look at this. Look, I'm Geppetto. Dance, Pinocchio, dance.
Stop. What you don't realize is that I'm 5'10".
Oh, yeah.
He's 8'1".
Well, sure, with the shoes. Nah.
This doesn't work. I'm talking to your knees.
Yeah, but my knees are listening, Debbie. They're listening.
No, this isn't
I come
working.
back
Come
up.
on.
We'll be boring and conventional, fine.
I think you were making a point, though, huh?
Yeah, that tonight's show is full of contrast.
Well, that it is. We're going to take you from high-tech surveillance to a guy who blames his driving problems on a deer.
Yeah. Often our surveillance camera footage captures people who are clueless about electronic wonders, but not this next guy.
No, not this next guy. He wasn't just a novice in such wizardry. He was a cell phone salesman. Watch how a sticky-fingered approach to computer software will clean his clock.
This employee of a cell phone franchise thinks he has a great idea. He'll go downstairs, take a computer game off the shelf, and return to his workspace in the center of the university bookstore. Now, here's the master plan. Download the program on his computer at work, and then transfer it to his computer at home. But here's the problem. 4 different cameras are following his every move. Downstairs, upstairs. Downstairs, upstairs. 3 trips in less than 2 hours, and every minute of it is on tape. Oh, what are you looking at? Don't be silly. Those cameras aren't on. Yeah, it's just a prop. Really, it is. Isn't this fun? Playing games at work and nobody knows. I've got to tell somebody about this. Just 2 weeks earlier, co-workers had teased him about not wearing shoes at work. They had seen his bare feet on camera and told him to put on his shoes. If only he had put on his thinking cap instead.
Some people break the rules plain and simple. Others, however, try bending them until they snap back and whack them right in the face.
Whoa, hey, watch it, all right? That's the case with this guy, who isn't exactly a drunk driver, or is he? His unconventional approach earns him a place in Something to Remember Me By.
I was dispatched to a prowler call, and as I'm arriving in the area, we get a description of the vehicle that the prowler is supposed to be in from our dispatcher. The dispatcher gives us the description as I'm passing by a quick shop right there. I noticed that there's a vehicle parked in the lot that looks exactly like the one that they had put out. They also put out a description of the person that was driving it. So I pull up into the quick shop and go inside. There's only one guy inside, so I go up and talk with him and say, hey, is this your truck outside? And he says, no, not my truck. So at that point, I basically told him that I knew it was his truck, and I knew that he was drunk because the guy was staggering as he was walking around the quick shop, smelled real bad from alcohol.
No, that's not my car.
So I tell him, I know you're drunk, so just don't get in your car and drive. You need to walk home, and we won't have any problems. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to arrest you for DUI.
Just go walk on home.
I said, okay. So he walks off. I leave the store, I see him leave. He walks about a half block away. I go around the corner and sit and wait because I know this guy's most likely gonna be back to drive off. As I'm sitting there watching, I see him walk back up onto the parking lot, and pretty soon I see the vehicle leaving, only he's not sitting in the driver's seat. Instead, he's running alongside of it, driving it with his right hand stuck in the window. And I thought maybe somebody was pushing, but when it cleared into my view, I could tell nobody else was helping him. So I pull up behind him and turn on my red lights, and as I do that, he looks back and kind of loses control of the vehicle at that point and just about crashes into the curb trying to get the vehicle stopped. I walk up to him and say, "What are you doing?" Because I'm thinking this guy's really an idiot. And he looks at me and says, "Well, you can't arrest me for DUI. I wasn't driving."
I was walking. Turn around, get your hands up against the vehicle. Spread them.
His basic point was that since he wasn't inside the vehicle, he couldn't be arrested for DUI. That isn't considered driving.
Told me I was walking home. Put your hands up against the vehicle. Give me your hand behind your back. Just like you told me.
So basically, I ended up arresting the guy for what I call DWRUI, driving while running under the influence.
Which, though, in some states is called a PUI.
What's that?
PUI, or pushing under the influence. Yeah, same thing.
It happens so often that we have come up with a name for it. It's Santa Syndrome. It's the insane belief that crooks hold that they can sneak and slither their way through ducts, chimneys, and other objects that are always smaller than they appear.
Yeah, our latest victim put the squeeze play on himself in a home where he could have become a permanent fixture. Let's go up on the rooftop to fish out our latest victim of the Santa Syndrome.
Santa zooms up the chimney with the blink of an eye. This would-be robber required a crane and a firefighting unit. Instead of making off, making a smoking exit with stolen goods, he sat tight, very tight. What was it like in there?
Rather dirty and real tight. There wasn't a lot of air in there.
Based on the way this guy is moving, this soot-covered fellow won't be returning to cinders anytime soon. Hopefully, this little slip up and slide down have taught him a lesson that'll help him stay clean. After all, everyone else knows that grime doesn't pay.
Hey, check out this dumb law. In Oklahoma, it is illegal to fish for whales.
Wonder how some laws come into existence? Well, our next story is a head-scratcher as well, but it's an excuse, not a law. And not just any excuse. The story this guy told was strange enough to be enthroned among America's dumbest excuses.
Guy's involved in an accident. We show up and he says, "Hey, this wouldn't have happened if that deer just would have used the crosswalk." And then he went on to describe the deer to us as being big, brown, and eyes that glowed in the dark. So we had something to look forward to that night.
Don't you just hate it when wildlife doesn't follow the rules, Daniel?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. I guess that rebellious streak is what put the wild in wildlife, huh? Well, tonight's Blue Light Special is a little gem about a wild man who saved officers a lot of trouble. To catch him soliciting for drugs, they didn't need undercover officers or unmarked cars, no sting operations or wiretaps. The only way it could have made it easier on them is if he'd driven himself to the jail and locked himself up. See what we mean.
I was working undercover a few years ago in narcotics division, and I was doing some cold hits at the Layton Hills Mall. And I saw these guys and went up to them, "Yo, Mike! Mike! Oh, wait a minute, you're not Mike, never mind. I'll see you later." And he goes, "Well, wait, what do you want?" And I said, "Well, I'm just looking for a pipe, man. Me and my buddy over there, we just scored some bud, and we want to blaze up, man. We'll pinch you a big old bud if you can just give us a pipe." And he said, "Well, let me ask my friend." And he talks to his friend, and his friend says, "No, sorry, we don't have a pipe. Okay, see you later." And I turned to walk away, and he said, "Well, wait a minute. Come here, just a minute." And so I walked up to him and said, "What do you want?" He goes, "You know anybody who wants to buy some crank?" I said, "Oh, funny you should ask." I didn't have any buy money on me at the time, so I pointed to my partner, who was parked in a SWAT truck about 50 feet away. It had red and blues right on the front of the SWAT truck. I said, "I don't do that stuff, but my partner there, he loves to tweak, my buddy there, so if you can give me the stuff, I'll go show it to him. If he thinks it's good, man, we'll buy it from you." Because I wanted to see his dope. So he pulls the dope out, he gives it to me, and he looked right at the SWAT truck too, and I thought, oh my gosh, I blew it. He's gonna see those red and blues. It's never gonna work now. And I couldn't believe the idiot still sold me the dope. Even after seeing those red and blues, I thought, this guy's really stupid. There's a reason why dope's called dope.
Yep. Here's something to keep in mind. An ID with something added can easily become the word idiot. That's what you'll find spelled out in our next tale. Let's take a little road trip to Orem, Utah.
We got a call back in September of two guys who had gone into a local computer store to fill out an application for credit for some laptop computers. The problem was they'd been in the same store 2 months earlier and had ripped that store off for one of their laptops on a previous time. The clerk recognized them and called us when they saw they were filling out this second application. They got a little bit hinky and left while they were supposedly checking out this credit application. And when we pulled them over, we found that they each had two phony California driver's licenses with the same name, all the information. In fact, everything was the same except for the photos, which were the two bad guys. That's a pretty easy case to make when they make it that easy for you by using the same name for both guys.
Coming up later, a man with multiple marks on his record doesn't know when to quit. But now with news that contradicts the theory of evolution, here's Daniel with ADC headlines.
A man in Columbia, Missouri was pulled over for driving without his headlights on. No big deal, right? But he feared that he was being stopped for driving with a suspended license or for possession of marijuana. To avoid further problems, he identified himself as his brother. Bad choice. His brother was currently being sought for 2 outstanding arrest warrants. Okay, growing more panicky, he assaulted the officer and fled, only to be captured the next day and have 8 charges filed against him. He should have quit while he was ahead, you know? To make his getaway from a bank robbery in Traverse City, Michigan, the unarmed man demanded the keys to a car belonging to one of the tellers. He ran out of the door, and immediately they called police. When officers arrived, they found the frustrated suspect still in the parking lot trying to figure out how to drive a stick shift. You know, he thought his getaway would be automatic, but, you know, maybe not just any car will do in a clutch, huh? 30 fugitives responded to a phony contest sponsored by state and federal officers in Gary, Indiana. All were seated, awaiting the announcement that they had won valuable prizes when the curtains opened and out stepped 20 uniformed officers with cuffs in hand. One of the disillusioned felons reportedly asked, "Do I still get my TV?" And that closes the file on ADC Headlines. News ripped from somewhere near the back of your local newspaper. Debbie?
Just how much is a friendship worth? If a friend ran out of gas and needed help, you'd probably come to the rescue, huh? But what if that out-of-gas vehicle was stolen from your place of business? Now that complicates matters. Well, that's only the beginning of problems for our next crook. Take a look.
We got a call from the sheriff department in Arizona regarding a truck that was stolen from a business there. Seems the employee taking the truck drove to Vegas or to our area, didn't have any gas, so he called back to the employer asking to get some money wired to him for gas. Well, that's dumb. The employee there called the police department knowing the truck was stolen. They relayed the information to us. He still parked at the gas pumps when we got there. We snuck up behind, took him out at gunpoint, placed him under arrest. What he didn't realize is he had $9,000 underneath the front seat of that truck, and the $9,000 was that week's payroll. Could have gone out and bought gas, bought himself a new truck, and played a lot of slots in Vegas. Now that's done.
Hey, now, you've always heard the expression, things go better with Coke. Well, not in this case. Here's another expression that's appropriate. Old habits die hard. And for this guy, he couldn't have been in a worse place for that truth to come to light. Here's this week's dim-witted chapter of I'm Where? You Who?
One night I arrested a young man for possession of rock cocaine. He was taken to jail and showed up about a week later for his preliminary hearing in court. While walking into the courthouse, He was passing through the metal detector and set it off. Right at about the same time, the judge was walking through the courtroom doors out towards the lobby area where the metal detector was. The bailiff at the court made the young man empty his pockets into a tray next to the metal detector. He was unaware that he had brought 3 rocks of cocaine into the courtroom with him and set them down the tray right in front of the judge. So in addition to the count of possession of rock cocaine that I arrested him for, the judge gave him another count right there and sentenced him to jail. He should have known the rock didn't roll.
Should have known. Most people are at least a little bit embarrassed when they get a ticket or are charged with breaking the law. But not this guy. He's fighting back with some very original logic.
One day I noticed a vehicle was speeding down the freeway, checked the license plate, and it came out stolen. So I turned on the lights and siren, the vehicle speeds up. And he's all over the road, running off in front of cars, trying to run cars off the road. Eventually gets off the freeway, runs red lights, just all kinds of dangerous stuff. Well, eventually we even have to sort of ram the vehicle to get it to pull over and stop and pin it. The guy even fights with us trying to get out of the car. Well, he cools down, we get him in the car in handcuffs, and he's actually being quite friendly. And he says, well, what are you guys going to charge me with? So I read off this long list of all the charges, all the felonies against him, you know, evading arrest, stolen car, no license, being under the influence of drugs. And I said, oh yeah, and you weren't wearing your seatbelt. So his eyes get real big and he says, wait a minute. All right, I stole a car and I was driving without a license and I was resisting arrest, but I had my seatbelt on.
No way you can pin me down with not wearing my seatbelt. I was wearing my seatbelt.
All right.
I had my seatbelt on.
Okay.
Now we come to our last story of the evening, which centers around a relaxing drive in the country. Well, drive, yes. Relaxing, no.
What it actually was a setup for a crook to rob the taxi driver. But we don't think his mental meter was running because of what he did next.
See how justice is swiftly dispatched in tonight's episode of We're Not Making This Up.
A couple of weeks ago, there was a man hired a taxi cab, and he had the taxi driver just ride around randomly from place to place. Finally ended up on a country road out here in Chesapeake, and at that point he decided to rob the cab driver.
That'd be a good time to pull over. Come on, give me your money. Come on. That's all you've got?
That's it.
Get out of here.
And the cab left and of course called in the robbery. Well, the robber found out that he was out on a country road with nowhere to get back to town. So he went to a house nearby and called the cab company. He called the same cab company and talked to the same dispatcher that he talked to earlier. Of course, the dispatcher recognized his voice, called the police. Cab driver went up and picked up a police detective. They went to the country road and picked up the suspect right near where he was let off and arrested him on the spot.
I just wanted a cab. I just wanted a cab.
Put your left hand behind your back.
The guy had prettier hair than me.
Well, yeah, he did. But there's no need to call him a cab. Just call him one of America's dumbest criminals. But unfortunately, he's far from alone in wearing that title. And we'll be adding more crooks to the lineup, so make sure you join us next week.
And if you've got a lead on a story or you just can't wait till next week for more state-of-the-art stupidity, visit our website at www.dumbcrimes.com.
To put it simply, committing any crime is dumb. That's the underlying truth we bring each week.
And every week, we want to make sure that we recognize the law enforcement officers who work really hard to help protect us and keep us from harm's way.
We thank them for the job they do, and we thank you for joining us tonight.
As always, we hope that we've all learned from others' mistakes.
But if you haven't, we just might see you next week on America's Dumbest Criminal.
Goodbye.